Okay, I wanted to leave a quick video here. It's been on my mind to do it. I haven't posted a video in 2.5 months, and I don't have that many viewers, so I primarily do it for myself. So I just call this more my video blog. Anyway, I'm happy to report my airplane is back. 2.5, basically, I think I did the math. I think it's 67 days. 67 days it took to do the annual on this thing. Now, we did a lot more than the annual. And the guy only works the weekends. So, it was a little slow because of that. But there was a lot of things that were done, and a lot of the things that were done were very laborious by nature. But there's still a couple of squawks. I flew the thing back. I just landed. The airplane hasn't flown in over 2 months until just now. It's about 0.8 hours to get it from Apopka, which is X-ray 04 on the chart, to Bartow. So she flew again, so that's good. But there's a couple of squawks from the flight. We did so much that I wouldn't necessarily expect, although it would be nice, but I wouldn't necessarily expect everything to be perfect. The guy never test flew the plane. We just did ops checks on the ground. But there are a couple of squawks that I'm going to have to bring it back for unless he's able to come by my hangar and address them. The primary squawk is that the trim has to be all the way back to be trimmed for takeoff or approach. So when you're coming in to land or you're taking off and you kind of want it trimmed for about 80, it is all the way to the stop. And the indicator is way far aft, and it is all the way to the stop. So so that's a thing. It should be closer to the middle, maybe slightly aft of middle, but even when you're trimmed for 8, like if I wanted to do slow flight, I couldn't do it. I could not trim for slow flight in this configuration right now. So it would be too nose heavy in that case. I'd be having to really yank back on the yoke to make it, do a sustained slow flight. So that's a thing. That's probably the biggest thing. The other thing is that I'll show you, the flap handle is a little weird. And there's one other thing. What was it? I guess it's pretty minor, whatever it was. Oh, I had a bit of a miss. One of my spark plugs is kind of missing. But I'll admit, when I landed here at Bartow, I did not do another run-up, so I'll just have to see what happens after that. So let's just take a little tour here. I'm going by memory. I did pay the guy, so we're done with that. But he has yet to send me an invoice unless it's sitting in my email. But I could tell you that the full annual cost $9,492.22. So that's how much I paid. This was the big one. And I could say without any shadow of a doubt, despite those little squawks that we're going to get past here in short order, I could tell you straight up that this airplane is in better shape than it's been for probably 30 years. And I'd put this thing up against just about any Cherokee 140 at this point. I mean, I have literally put $18,500 into this thing since I bought it. And I'm not particularly proud of that. Some of that was me not being very smart. I really should never have bought this airplane. It just had a lot of crap that needed to be done. But once I bought it, the only way through was through, and fundamentally it was a nice little airplane. It just needed a lot. So I bought it. Frankly, I overpaid a little bit for it, and I put a whole shit ton of money in it. But I can finally say that based upon what I know, we've arrived. I mean, it's a really nice little plane. The paint's pretty good. It's not brand new, but the paint's pretty good. It's got the wheel pants, power flow, 160 horsepower. I got brand new seats in there. I'm going to show you that in a minute. Only the two fronts. I got the backs back there. I haven't put those in yet, but that's forthcoming. So let's take a little tour. So as far as the wings, you know, not a lot was done. The first thing that happened was we replaced all the brake lines. So every rubber hose that is part of the brake system. Oh, that's what my third squawk was, by the way. He bled the brakes and got them pretty close, but these Pipers are notoriously difficult to bleed. And so the brakes are a little softer than they were when I brought it there. So I think there's a little bit more work to do on that. That was the third squawk. But it's safe. It stops enough. But you really got to hold the pedals down when you do a run-up because it really wants to go. So every single rubber line that is part of the brakes, from inside that wheel pan, it's all closed up with these fancy pants, all the way up to everything that's under the dash. Every single rubber component of the brake lines were replaced. You can't see all of it because of these wheel pants, but I also have brand new rotors. I also have brand new pads. And then I had the torque links rebuilt. And again, you can't see it inside of here. There's a lot of crap inside this pant that was done that is sort of anticlimactic when the pant's on. But inside of that, there's a torque link, and sort of looks like a scissor link. If you know anything about Cherokees, you know what I'm talking about. And I had all those bolts and bushings and everything replaced. So before, you could jack this thing up and you could get this wheel and it would just shimmy a little bit because there was slop in all of that linkages, and now it's rock solid. So all that's been done. So scissor links rebuilt, rubber new for the brakes, new rotor, new pads. Same thing on the other side, of course. So that was done. And then this door, these hinge clevises are brand new. And this door had a lot of slop in it before. Like, you can get it and just roll it up and down. And it didn't close, it didn't seat very well. So we got it seating nicely. It still takes a little bit of a heave to make that thing close, but it's a lot better than it was. It's just a much, these things were just wobbling in there before. So this piece here is brand new. And this cotter, it's not a cotter, but it's an axle, I guess, whatever you want to call it. This is new. And he also painted those up and stuff. So the door is real tight. That's good. Most of the work is under here. So all this baffling is brand new. This was all painted. And there's, I don't know if you can see it, but in the back, there's like a shiny piece. It's trying to focus on the wrong thing. You see that shiny piece of metal with the rivets on it? That was put there to fix some cracks in the baffling. And so that was done. And then the front, the baffling in the front, the metal was completely redone. We got these from Airforms in Alaska. And he says this is supposed to be sticking out, so I guess I'm okay with that. But before, I don't know if you, I mean, it's a minor thing, I guess. And we did this for more than just aesthetic reasons. But it looks so much more kept. Like, you just look in the front of this thing and it's shiny, it's just nice. And before, it was just nasty. It looked corroded, it just looked neglected, like nobody gave a crap. I probably have some other pictures I can try to find and put up, but now, I mean, you look in there and you say, okay, you know, this thing is well maintained. There's an oil cooler behind this, and this whole thing was rocking up and down. This whole mount was broken, and instead of fixing it right, which is what we did, we bought a whole new bracket. By the way, that and all that, and there's a couple other little tiny pieces, $622. So it's not cheap. And the people that did it before, they tried to fix this thing in some crappy way, and it just didn't work. So now it just looks nice. It looks well kept, and this oil cooler is nice and tight. So it's looking good. We didn't do it this annual, but one of the things that I had done was obviously redoing this cowling. This entire cowling was redone, including that fiberglass. So if you were to, like, if I just stand right here and I think about how much of my money went into that picture right there, staring up the grill of this airplane, ton of money right there. From painting that wheel pant to redoing that spinner, to redoing all this fiberglass, to redoing all that baffling. I mean, there's a lot of money here that I put into this thing. So it was a loose screw here. Just found a loose screw. So we'll get that tightened up shortly. So here's more baffling, you know, kind of the same idea. All this rubber is completely new. And then we move to here. So first of all, this is all new. I don't even know what you call that, but that goop was old. It almost looked like a dirt dauber's nest before. So I pulled all that off, and he, you know, re-put on the goop. And he also fabricated this cable. This is a copper cable. So now I have, and this one was already copper, but that one was aluminum underneath. So he fabricated that, so now it's got a lot more oomph on start than it had before. This one, before these magneto wires were just running through that hole. So I had to buy these retainers. Somebody cheaped out on that. All this tubing is new. So there's a airworthiness directive out there. I forget the number at this point, but it requires replacing all of these tubes. So this is new. This is new. Every orange thing you see in here is new. So this is called skeet tubing, and right here. So pretty much if I pan around, every single orange hose in this thing, whether it be a fluid hose, which would be this, or an air hose, which would be this, was completely replaced. So every hose in there is completely new at this point. You can come around on this side, you can see the hoses better. So every single one of these is new. These things had holes in them. That's how neglected this airplane was. I mean, they were literally just sucking air through the thing. The power flow exhaust. Oh, by the way, there was an intake gasket right in here. This is cylinder number 3. There was an intake gasket that was sucking air pretty bad, so he replaced the intake gasket on that cylinder. I don't know if you can see in here. Yeah, you can see. You see that rubber? If you look at the top, there's like a copper-looking bendy hose. That goes into a rubber hose, and those were dry rotted to crap. So he replaced all 4 of those. Those are oil return lines. So those have been replaced on every single cylinder because it was leaking oil. Obviously, we did an oil change. What else is in here? I think that's most of what we did in the engine compartment. So I mean, that's a lot of stuff. I mean, the skeet tubes were about they were about $180, I guess, maybe 200. And then all the fluid tubes were about 900, plus labor, of course. So we did that, and then what am I missing here? I'm just kind of going by memory. I don't have a checklist right in front of me. Here's my oil filter. That's when the oil was changed. That was the day after I brought it there, and right now it's July 4th, so that tells you how much time has elapsed. That was done on the first day of the annual, right there, 4/28, and I just got it back to my hangar on July 4th. So it was not a slow process, or not a fast process. It was a slow process. So I already mentioned the same stuff was done here that was done on the other side. Over here, I'm not going to be able to show this to you really, but over here, right underneath this hinge, there's what's called a aileron push rod, and there's a bell crank here. So when you do the yoke thing, left and right, there's a cable that runs down through here, and it sort of runs around a bell crank, which pivots right here. And then it comes down and it connects to a push rod. There's a push rod here, and that was corroded to crap. So he changed that out and painted it all pretty and whatnot. He says the other side probably should be done at some point, but it wasn't nearly as bad, so we punted on that. If you come back here, you're not going to be able to see it, but obviously if you remove this, right in here, this is sort of like the spar of the stabulator, and this is sort of like the top of the spar, and then it runs through the other side, and the whole thing pivots around that. There's a hinge in front of it, so if you sort of look here, I don't know if you can see, but kind of where my finger is, that's sort of like one side of a triangle, which then comes down to a point upon which there's a bolt going through, and that's what the thing hinges on. But then there's 8 bolts that actually bolt the stabulator to those hinges, and they were corroded to crap, and that was an all-day job. Trying to get to those things is quite a bitch. So so that was done, and let's see, everything was lubed. There was all sorts of lack of lubrication in this thing. It was obvious. If you look here, let me crawl inside. If you look underneath that forward panel, climb in here. If you look underneath that forward panel, right in front of the flap handle there, underneath that plastic thing where the rudder trim is, there's a bunch of pulleys under there that come from the yoke, and cables run through them and all that. They weren't lubed at all. They were just nasty looking. By the way, here's my new seats. So let me sit down here. So here's I got my 4-flight still on there, but here's my new seats. And I got the headrests. That was not easy to do, but we got it done. And these seats, between fixing the frames and there was some sheet metal work that went into them, we're talking, I think I've got about $2,800 in these seats. And that includes the back, but as you can see, the back are not done yet. So they're done. I don't know if, can I zoom here? Let me see. Yeah, you see right there? That's the bottom of one of the backs, and that's the bottom of the other. And they're newly done. They look just like these. The problem is I don't have the backs of the backs done yet. I really haven't had the time to do them. So I'm going to do those, and once I get the backs of the backs done, then I'm going to put them in the back, and it's going to look really nice in here. But it's hard to really do it justice because I can't zoom out, but I'm really tickled with how nice it looks in here. I also have some plastic trim pieces that are going to go here. That's going to give it a nice finished look, and there's a little bit more that I need to do with the avionics. I still have a radio problem. My gyros still need to be overhauled. I'm also going to put a 406 ELT in it. So that's coming up probably soon. And of course I have the True Track autopilot, which is sitting in a box on my floor. And I was really hoping to have it done as part of the annual, but we just didn't get to it, plain and simple. So, but it's pretty wild how much I've done to this plane. I mean, all the plastic, that flap handle, that's all. By the way, here's one of my squawks. See how much plays in that? That's not right. Just not right. I've flown a lot of Pipers. That's not right. But as soon as you do one click, it's nice and tight. So, I don't know. But I also need to rebuild that hydraulic thing. You see that thing with the spring around it? It needs to be rebuilt. So the journey never ends, it seems. Let me turn off my 4-flight here. Let me turn that. There we go. We'll just do that. There we go. So the journey never ends. And the other thing is the hangar that it was in for 2 months is dusty. Just a lot of activity, a lot of planes, just a lot of things happening. And the airplane's covered in dust. So it's hard to tell in the video, but the whole thing's got just a layer of hazy dust on it. And I'm pretty anal, so I'm gonna fix it. I'm probably gonna come out on Sunday and wash the airplane. And I'm about to wrap it up for today. My hope was that the mechanic would kind of have it ready to go and have flown it and have all of the squawks worked out, and I just pick it up and fly it home. And I'm not saying I'm disappointed. Things don't really pan out quite the way you think they will all the time. But when I got there was still more work to do, and we still had to put the cowling on, and he never actually flew it. So the squawks that I discovered, i.e. the trim, and all of that. Really, it's really kind of inconvenient for me to have to deal with that. So I was kind of hoping to just have that done. But we'll get it done. Usually with me, most things that I do in life require double effort. That's pretty much, I'm not trying to feel sorry for myself. It's just empirically true in my life. So if I want to do a thing, I have to make an attempt. I come a little bit short, then I make another attempt, and I get it. And that's the case with everything. The same thing with buying this thing. Like I bought an airplane, and I said, well, I got it. I mean, what a dream come true to buy your first airplane, right? Well, not quite. It's got a lot of fucking problems that need to be fixed. So here we go. So we got that done. I remember when I got that wheel pant right there painted. As soon as I flew it, paint chipped off, had to bring it back to the shop. I remember when I had the sheet metal work done the first time, I had to bring it back for something. And then here I'm gonna have to bring it back again. So that's just the nature of it. You just blast, you just power. That's my style. I'm not graceful in life. A lot of things that I do are inefficient, but I just power through. And that's actually a source of pride. I mean, I look at this airplane and I think about how much money I have in this airplane at this point, and I don't even want to think about it. But I got there. And I'm fortunate that I'm doing all right. I can handle it. But I look at this thing and I'm like, I did it. This is a fucking really nice airplane. And yeah, I've got a lot more money than it's worth, but I get to enjoy flying it, and it flies real well. And it's going to be a source of pride. It has been, but it will continue to be a source of pride for me for a long time. And flying it's fun, but also working on it's fun. I'm going to enjoy coming out here and washing it on Sunday. And there's, after an annual, you've had hands, dirty mechanic-y hands all over the thing for 2 months. So I'm going to need to go around with some simple green and just wipe smudges off and whatnot. I need to vacuum it out. I need to do some other stuff. But to be honest with you, right now, I'm kind of ready to go home. So I don't have a car. If you look right there, I have no car. And that's because my wife drove me up to Apopka, and then she drove home, and I flew the airplane in here, and she's going to come pick me up. So as soon as I'm done with this video, I'm going to call my wife and tell her to come get me, so I don't have to Uber home. I could Uber home, but I might as well save the 12 bucks or so and have her come get me. From where I sit right now, just to give you a little idea, this direction here is west. I'm looking west right now, and my house is about 4.5 miles that way, almost due west from here. In fact, if you look out here, this is runway 9 left, which goes that way, and then 27 right, which goes that way. And if I am on final for 9 left, if I'm on about a 5-mile final for 9 left, I fly right over my house. So I am about 4.5 to 5 miles as the crow flies from my house. It's not that bad. It's only about a 13 to 14 minute drive to get here, so I'm fairly fortunate in that regard. So I will call the missus. She'll come get me, and I'm gonna shower. I've been sweating like crazy today. But we have definitely moved the football. This airplane, it's not done. There's more to do. I don't know if you ever finish, but the next step is I need to wash it. I need to get the smudges off. Then I need to get the squawks fixed. We got the trim problem. I think the brakes need a little bit more bleeding. And then I can't always remember. Oh, the flap handle's a little wonky. But otherwise, it's tight. It flew fine. It's got plenty of power. It never really gave me any problems. But it's going to take a few hours probably to iron out the kinks. Anytime you do an annual that extensive, there's going to be some things to work out. So we'll do that. Today's Thursday. It's July 4th right now. Tomorrow I have to work. Saturday I have a family function. So Sunday is the next day I'm going to come out to the hangar. And my intention is to get out here early and wash it and get all this hangar dust off and the smudges and whatnot. And I'll probably vacuum it too. And then I'm probably going to go fly. The trim is definitely a bit of a thing, but I believe it's safe to fly. I flew it here with no problem. I mean, if you roll it all the way back, it's basically trimmed for about 75 to 80. So, and that's really, unless you're out there practicing slow flight, that's pretty much all you need to get it done. So I'm probably going to fly after I wash it on Sunday, go up there and just blow dry it. And maybe I'll go get lunch somewhere, I don't know. And then it's possible that I can get my mechanic to, even though he is based in Apopka, it's possible I can get him to come out here and fix that here without having to go back to a shop. But I'm happy to go back to a shop. I'm not happy to, but I'm willing to go back to a shop if I need to get it fixed. So, but I will straight up admit, I really don't want to do it this Sunday. The last thing I want to do is go back to his shop at this point after 2 months of of it being there. I kind of want to just wash it. I want to just to kind of be around it, you know what I'm saying, and kind of just enjoy what I've done instead of saying, you know what, this is still not done. I can say, you know, look at all the stuff that was done. So that's where we are. There's 25 minutes of yapping. Let me flip this camera around. There's me. So yeah. So that's what we got. So I'm going to shut this thing down here, and I'm going to call the missus, and by the time I kind of get the last little items done here and packing up my bag and whatnot, she'll be here to pick me up. And I guess it's not really a wrap because I still have the squawks I got to deal with, but it's mostly a wrap. So we will continue to push and fight the good fight, and you know, it's a long game. This airplane is the long game for me. I mean, I bought it. It was in need of a lot. I've done so much to it, and it's just going to get better and better, even from an avionics perspective. And I mean, I'm not going to go overboard, but I do have the true track. Eventually, I'm going to put like an Avidyne 440 or something in it. I got the seats. There's a little bit more work to do to like finalize the seats. I mean, obviously you saw they look nice, but they're technically not done. I still need to rebuild the hydraulic thing. There's a couple of bolts on the back. It's just details. There's a couple things I need to do. Then I got to reinstall the back, and but at least I can fly it. Despite the trim issue, it is airworthy, and I can fly it, and I do plan on flying it. But I also have to put together a plan to get those last issues resolved. So that's all I got. So thanks for listening to me jaw jack for 30 minutes, and yeah. Thanks.